Good afternoon and welcome. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for the info session with FPF Advisors and Ambassadors. My name is Sarah Gamboa, and I'm an academic advisor in FPF and one of the 3 advisors who will be hosting today's webinar. We're going to allow folks a few more minutes to get logged in, so please sit tight for now, and we'll plan to start at 4:05. Right. Hi. Excuse me. Hi again, everyone, and welcome to the info session with FPF advisors and former FPF students. For those of you just logging in now, my name is Sarah Gamboa, and I'm an academic advisor in FPF. To touch on a few logistics regarding today's session, this is a webinar, which means we cannot hear or see you. This means using the raise hand feature is not an effective way to communicate with the advisors and the panelists. Also, the chat feature is disabled, so the way you can ask questions is to submit them through the Q&A function. We'll get to those questions in the second half of the presentation during the Q&A with FPF ambassadors. Okay, so you can see on this slide here the names of the other FPF advisors, Brandon Bassa and Caroline Forrest, also joining us today. And also included on this slide are FPF ambassadors. And ambassadors are students from prior FPF cohorts. This picture up here was actually taken this past Saturday at Cal Day. So before we get into their introductions on the next slide, I just wanted to take a moment to reassure you all that we were once in your shoes. Brought this up in the last info session with our students during that time. So a fresh starting out on a new campus, navigating the complexities of being a new student and all of the unknowns. It's a very exciting time, but it can also be nerve-wracking and a bit overwhelming. So just know that we are here to support you in whatever way that we can. So let's meet the ambassadors who will be participating in today's Q&A panel. Ambassadors, if you could introduce yourself with the following information: your name, what you were in FPF, your current grade, and majors and minors, that would be great. And to get us started, Jean, if you would like to go first, and then we can, after Jean, we can go to Quinn, just kind of follow the order there on the side.
Hello, everyone. It's great to see you here today. My name is Zan. I'm a current senior studying economics and statistics, and I was in FPF back to 2019.
Hi, everyone. My name is Quinn. I'm a current sophomore studying psychology with minors in geography, political economy, science, technology, society, and public policy. And I was an FPF in fall of 2021.
Hi, my name is Hazel. I was a part of the 2021 cohort. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am an intended applied mathematics and computer science major, and I am a sophomore.
Hi, I'm Sky. I am a first year now and was in FPF last semester, so part of the 2022 cohort. I am undecided right now, but likely going to be a political science major with a public policy minor.
Hello, everybody. I'm Asad. I am a freshman as well, and I am part of the FPF 2022 cohort, and my intended major is business administration.
All right, thanks everyone for sharing. Also, if you would like to learn about ambassadors in more detail, as well as the FPF advisors, you be sure to check out our bios on our website, which is fpf.berkeley.edu. So we will start this afternoon with an overview of FPF, which includes how to register for your courses and the timeline in which that's going to happen, FPF resources and support, information about your first semester course load, and then we'll close with a Q&A with FPF ambassadors. During the question and answer segment, questions submitted in the Q&A will be addressed by an ambassador. We may choose to respond to some of your questions with a typed response in the Q&A versus a live response if it doesn't seem to pertain to the larger group. And if for some reason we run out of time and don't get to your question, please feel free to follow up with us via email at askfpf@berkeley.edu. Also, a recording of today's session will be available on the FPF departmental YouTube page. So what is FPF? This question comes up quite a bit for our new students. FPF, one way to describe it, is a first-year pathway and is only for the fall semester of your first year at Berkeley. So we are a cohort within the Frosh class in LNS. So similar to other collegiate first-year programs, we create a small collaborative learning community within the large university. If you think about other types of programs and clubs on college campuses that build community, for example, the Greek system, we are just a community that is more academic in nature. FPF also provides peer tutoring and workshops, and advisors are additional resources that are also very accessible. So another way to learn more about our program is by checking out our informational videos on our YouTube channel. So in particular, you may want to check out the FPF official video, as well as the FAQ video that are up online. So, and with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Brandon.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So in order to be eligible for FPF, you have to be a newly admitted student within the College of Letters and Science. So that means if you are in a different college, such as the Roger College of Natural Resources or the College of Chemistry, unfortunately, we would not be able to work with you. Also, if you are a transfer or returning student, we also would not be able to work with you because we work with first-year students specifically. And just as a reminder, all FPF students are fully matriculated, regularly enrolled students in the College of Letters and Science at UC Berkeley. You know, when you graduate, there is no difference on your degree. It will not say FPF, it will say UC Berkeley specifically. So when choosing FPF, definitely two major things to consider. If you plan on using veteran educational benefits, such as the post 9/11 GI Bill or the Dependents Educational Assistance, please note that unfortunately, FPF would not be approved to utilize those benefits. So if you are thinking about FPF, but you are utilizing or plan to utilize veteran educational benefits, please reach out to us directly, or please reach out to the VA Educational Benefits Office, and we can sort of go over your options. Another consideration is if you have the California Community College IGETC, or if you've completed majority of the LNS degree or college requirements, then definitely consider if FPF is right for you, due to it having a limited curriculum, based on the fact that majority of the classes you will be taking in FPF will come from our curriculum. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that if you have IGETC that you shouldn't do FPF. We've had IGETC students in the past join FPF and make a lot of progress towards the degree. So if you do have questions about your fit with FPF, please reach out to us, because we just want to make sure that you are choosing the right decision for your higher education journey. And if that's with FPF, then that's great. And if not, that's okay too. Next slide. So in terms of registering for FPF, there's really two ways. For students that have the option of opting into FPF, the first step is you would want to accept your offer of admissions to UC Berkeley by May 1st at 11:59 p.m. And then after you accept your offer to UC Berkeley, you would then go to your My Application portal and find the first year pathway selection form under the Forms section and register for FPF by May 2nd at 11:59 p.m. Now, students who are directly admitted to FPF, and if you're having questions whether or not you were directly admitted, please take a look at your admit letter. If it says that you were admitted to UC Berkeley through FPF, that means you were directly admitted into FPF. And for those students, now if you are directly admitted to FPF, in terms of registering for us, you just have to accept the offer of admissions for UC Berkeley through your My Application portal by May 1st. And once you've accepted your offer, you are automatically registered for the fall program for freshmen or first semester. And lastly, just before you opt in or decide to accept your offer of admissions, if you're directly admitted to FPF, please be sure to read through all the terms and agreements and just make sure that FPF is the right fit for you and that you're understanding all the different policies that you have to follow if you're to decide to be part of our program in your first semester. Next slide, please. And again, like I had mentioned before, like if you are wondering whether or not FPF is right for you, or if UC Berkeley is right for you, please reach out to us. Our advisors, we really love just being able to support students. For example, last year in the fall of 2022, we met with 96.9% of all of our students in a one-on-one advising session. So this just speaks to how much we want to support students on a personal, individual basis. So if you are wondering whether or not FPF is a good fit for you and you just have questions about whether or not this is the right program or the right school for you, please reach out to us and we will do our best to sort of answer any questions and make sure this decision is the best decision for you and your loved ones. And with that, I'll go ahead and pass it off to Caroline.
Thank you, Brandon. Yes. So one of the first things that you will do with your FPF academic advisor is to work on your first semester course load. And so FPF courses typically satisfy general education requirements and many major prerequisites. FPF's curriculum is tailored to allow you to explore various areas of interest, majors, and work on a variety of degree requirements, including but not limited to reading and composition, quantitative reasoning, and the 7 course breadth requirements. So just to illustrate a little bit about what your first semester schedule might look like, your first semester schedule in FPF will include a minimum of 9 units from our course offerings. Students also have the opportunity to take a maximum of 5 units of coursework outside of the FPF curriculum, including 2-unit or less elective courses and 1 3-unit lower division course. You could also take all of your fall courses within FPF if you chose to do that. I also want to point out that a majority of the non-FPF courses that are 2 units or less are ones that you can take, such as the Berkeley Connect series, physical education, theme housing, and more. For questions on specific non-FPF courses you're interested in taking, feel free to reach out to us via email at fpf@berkeley.edu, and an advisor will be happy to talk to you about that. I also want to mention too that students in FPF must be enrolled in a minimum of 13 units total and no more than 17.5 units as your maximum. We also recommend that students take somewhere between a range of 13 to 15 units in their first semester, as this range tends to provide the most balance and activities for students between managing like your social life, extracurriculars, and your courses. Okay, on the next slide. Thank you. Yeah. So as Brandon mentioned earlier, a few slides ago, we were able to meet with almost 97% of our students in the fall 2022 cohort. And we think that this and being able to have this high level of interactions with students is one of the hallmark features of the program. And FPF advising starts in the summer and then it goes all the way through the fall semester through your finals week. And so this is one of the benefits of the program that many students have shared with us in the past, in addition to smaller class sizes, which facilitate greater interaction with instructors, peers, and with the course material itself. So all of these features lead to some of the impact that we're able to have on students during the first semester and beyond. So in addition to the advising, the small close-knit community, we cultivate, those things can really make a difference during your educational journey. And we hope that you'll consider some of these benefits as you discern your next steps. So we offer some statistics for you to illustrate a little bit about the impact that FPF has had. So for reference, the annual incoming first year class is a little over 6,000 students, and each FPF cohort is about 750 first year students. So since there's 20,000 undergraduates in the whole College of Letters and Science, FPF really is a tiny community, but we can still have a significant and positive impact on our students. For example, a higher percentage of FPF students receive Dean's Honors versus LMS students overall. And FPF students tend to have higher graduation rates than students who start in the traditional pathway. And the reason that we can do all this is through the smaller class sizes that can afford you greater connection to get to know the material and your instructor. And all those things combined can make it a little bit easier to navigate campus as you move forward with your degree. So to give you another example of what this actually looks like on a detailed basis, the Math 1A Calculus course in the fall is expected to be around 700 students on the central campus. And FPF, we're able to offer the exact same class, fulfilling the same requirements, but only capped at around 75 students. That way you can have that greater interaction that can make the coursework and your experience that much more meaningful. On the next slide. And speaking of meaningful impact, we're happy to answer any questions. That way you can get a sense of what your first semester might look like. And so if you have any questions but need to head out, you're always more than welcome to connect with our ambassadors at their very own email account, which is askfpf@berkeley.edu. I do also want to point out that FPF's home-based building is in the Golden Bear Center, also known as GBC, which is located at 1995 University Avenue in Berkeley. And if you have any general programmatic questions, you can reach out to our program email, fpf@berkeley.edu. So now we'll move into the general Q&A portion with our FPF ambassadors on the next slide. The next one, please, Sarah. Cool. Thank you. Yeah, so the first question that we have for our ambassadors is, what classes did you take in your FPF semester? And we'll go ahead and start with Zan, since you were the first ambassador on my screen, and then go to Sky, Quinn, Hazel, and Osed. We can move, we'll start with Sky and then we'll come back to Zan.
Okay, great. So I took Introduction to Comparative Politics, Gender and American Culture, and a geography class called World, Peoples, and Cultural Environments, as well as a public speaking class.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Quinn? What did you take?
Yeah, when I was in FPF, I took biological anthropology, which is anthropology 1A, and I took environmental science policy management 50 AC. And then I took a main campus course called Integral Urban Studies R44.
Nice, awesome.
As well as a Berkeley Connect class, actually.
Okay, very cool. That's electives. How about you, Zan?
For me, I took English R1A as my reading and composition to fulfill the writing requirement. And I was also taking Earth and Planetary Science. I believe it's like EPS 80, which is a pretty fun class that fulfills the one of the GE requirements. And also I was taking the Gender and Women Studies, the GWS 50 AC. And also I was taking like Stat 2, which is an introductory class to statistics because that's my major. I just kind of want to have a sense of how the major classes look like at Berkeley.
Perfect. Thank you. How about you, Hazel?
Hey, so I don't remember the exact codes, but I can tell you the names of the ones, and they're obviously under the FPF list, so you can like sift through that. But Math 1A, Ancient Greek and Roman Studies, it's like I think it's 10A on the campus and 1A X1A over here. I don't remember, but yeah. R1A, and then also I took a sociology class as well.
Very cool. And finish us off with said, what did you take last semester?
Yeah, I took math pre-calculus, which was math 32, and then I took introduction to American politics. And with that, I took geography 4, which was world, peoples, and cultures. And then to top it off, I took a public speaking class.
Very nice. All fascinating schedules. So do you all have a favorite course or courses from your time in FPF? This is open to anybody.
I can start us off again. My favorite class in FPF was Introduction to Comparative Politics that I mentioned, ex-poli-sci 2, if anyone's interested in taking it. But I'm interested in politics, like I mentioned before, it might be my major. And I would just really loved the way that our Professor Hooley, taught the course. It was very engaging with students, and we were able to share a lot of what we were interested in within the general course material. So everything, like all the theories that we talked about, were very applied to current events and just specific topics that students were interested in. And he just got a really good chance to understand who we were as people and get to connect with us because it was such a small class. So actually at the end of the class, he offered to write a letter of recommendation to anyone in the class just because he got to know us so well, which was really awesome. And I actually took him up on that this semester. But I just really loved the way that we were able to connect with the material and just learn from our professors' experiences.
Yeah, one of my favorites was Anthro 1A, just because the professor was really knowledgeable and he had been all over the world doing like excavation, and he just had a lot of stories to share. So it was really enjoyable for that aspect.
I feel like for me, my favorite class was EPS 80. It was taught by Professor Stephen Andrews, and he's a super passionate guy about this field. And also because of this smaller class size, we were able to do a lot of outdoor engagement activities, as well as some fun activities like the soil test. And I just enjoyed the class.
I took this one. I just said it. This is one fun class, ancient Greek and Roman studies. I'm gonna. The professor was so nice, and like I just liked it because like a lot of things, like a lot of the readings and stuff were fun to read, and like I like, it just like was it's like a nice break from like hecticness from like other classes and like just like Berkeley life in general. It's like a nice class to like be. It's like the class that I enjoying being in, and then like taking a break from like, to de-stress from like exams and like all that.
Yeah, my favorite class in FPF was the Introduction to Public Speaking class. And then it was the reason why it was my favorite class was it was so engaging. It was a very small class size. It was only 24 of us. and we could build personal connections in those class. We all knew each other by the end of the class, and we had a lot of field trips. We were often walking to campus, having our classes in the garden and everything like that. So I think that was one of my favorite classes at FPF.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing your favorite classes. So a couple of the questions that we got in the Q&A were pertaining to the rigor and like whether there's any differences between FPF courses and non-FPF classes that you're taking in your spring semester and later term. So let's see, Quinn, would you say if there was any differences between classes you took in FPF and on the main campus in terms of like difficulty level, professors, et cetera, any of those items?
Yeah, so honestly, the professors were the same. Like I was taking my environmental science class at FPF, and I had a friend taking the same class on main campus at the same time with the same professor. All the assignments were the same. So I really don't think there was really any difference except I got to take it with a smaller class size. And also the FPF building had nicer air conditioning.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, did anyone else notice any differences between their FPF semester classes and the ones they took later?
I would say in terms of academic rigor, no, but just in terms of the class environment, it felt very different a lot more often. So when you're not in FPF, you take classes that can be like up to 400 people for a lot of those introductory classes that you're offered in FPF. And just I feel like there's a lot more classroom community through FPF, and I think that kind of helps foster a different learning environment. When you're not in FPF, you still have discussion sections, but that's maybe like a third of the time instead of all the time that you're in class. So you do get that some, but for me, I really thrive in more of a smaller class community. And so I really appreciated that academic style in FPF.
Yeah, it's a good point, Sky, too, because in FPF, if your course has a discussion section, it's taught by the same professor that does your lecture. So that's additional time that you have with your instructor. Another question that came through in the Q&A was whether taking FPF courses puts you back in your major, your overall degree requirement planning. So Zan, what do you think about that? Since you're a senior and you're now almost at the end of it.
I feel like, first of all, FPF is only for one semester. It's always a good chance to get some sense of how Berkeley classes look like. And me, myself, I was actually doing two majors, economics and statistics, together with a minor in data science. So I would say, like, as long as you kind of plan ahead about your schedule and make sure, like, stay on time for the enrollment time, and also talk to your potential major advisors for some of the other major related questions, I think, like, all the classes can definitely be done within 4 years. And some of my friends from FPF even graduate with like 3 years and a half. So I think like it really depends on how you kind of manage resources and utilize all the things what you can use.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And so you mentioned one important resource is access to advising. So other ambassadors, did you all utilize advising while you were in FPF? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I definitely utilize advising. Although I just want to add something from the first question is that
Go ahead.
I think it definitely depends on what you're studying. Because for me, I didn't plan out anything at all in my first semester, and I had no idea what I wanted to study. And so I just took a variety of breadth courses, and I got 3-4 of my breaths done, and I'm still able to do a major and 4 minors. So I don't think FPF really set me back at all.
Thank you, Quinn. Yeah, so that brings us to another question that's come up many times before, is FPF only for students who are undeclared or I'm not sure what they want to do with their majors? So let's hear from some of the other ambassadors that had different majors represented. What would you all think? Is it helpful to have majors in mind if you did FPF, or is it totally okay to be undeclared and not sure what you want to do?
I can speak to this. I'm undeclared. I was undecided, but I had an idea going in. And I had friends who were declared or not declared, because people don't usually declare until at least their sophomore year, just because you don't have to declare until the end of your sophomore year. But people who I was friends with who were very clear on what intended major they wanted to do. they were able to get those classes, and you need to take a lot of the introductory prerequisite classes that are offered in FPF. So it can really help with just getting those base requirements done. Also, I would say, just as someone who's undecided, and it kind of just depends on how you approach the process, regardless of if you're decided or not. If you approach it as like the first semester, I want to get a lot of my breadth or like GE requirements done, or just a lot of prerequisites for a variety of majors that kind of go for both. You can do that, whereas you could like go very directed at what classes. There's such a wide variety of classes in both FPF and non-FPF, so you have the option to do both, and it's not necessarily geared toward one or the other, just because there is a wide variety.
Yeah, Sky's point brings us to one question that's come up in the Q&A, is that when you leave FPF, do you automatically start the next semester at Berkeley in your intended major that you're accepted with, or are you undeclared in LMS? And so, as mentioned before, all students, including FPF students, all students in the letters and sciences, which includes FPF, come into the college undeclared. And then after that, you make progress to declare your major by taking some of those foundational prerequisite courses that Sky and Quinn mentioned, in addition to your general education requirements. Another question that came in is regarding enrollment. So what was your experience like enrolling in courses? Osaid, how did that work for you when it came time to enroll in your fall courses?
Yeah, for sure. For me, I had a enrollment time of the second day, so that's considered not having the best time. But in that case, I was prepared for that by having backup classes ready. So in case I didn't get the classes which were my first preferences, I kept backup classes ready. And in that case, I was trying to get Math 16A, and I was not able to enroll in that class. So for that reason, I had kept an extra breadth requirement at backup. So that's what I took on when I saw that the class was full. So I think the best advice I can give for that is spare that achievement time and keep batches ready.
Yes, as Osaid mentioned, it's definitely helpful to have multiple schedules in mind, and that's something that you can work on with your assigned FPF academic advisor over the summertime. Then moving away from questions related to coursework, what types of things did you get involved in during your fall semester at college, whether that was using FPF resources or other clubs and activities? So Hazel, how about you? What types of things did you do in your fall semester outside of the classroom?
I had a job. I was able to balance it pretty well with my classes, but yeah, I had a job down at what is it, Target. Yeah, and it was pretty fun. I was able to like do all my work and then also like work at Target, but I didn't really get into like the club like activities and stuff like until like later on, because like you know, I just like, I don't know, I was still getting used to the campus life, and you know, I'm glad that I took FPF because now it like makes me like realize that like I, you know, I can do these clubs and stuff like that.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing. Sky, how about you? What did you get involved in last semester?
Yeah, so I really wanted, so Berkeley has a little bit of a reputation going in that very much focus on academics and can be a little stressful at times. So I wanted to make sure to balance my academics with some other fun extracurriculars too. So I was very focused. Also, while also focusing on my classes, I was really wanting to join some clubs that would help me find like my group, help me find my community at Cal. So I joined Greek Life, and I also joined the club lacrosse team my first semester. And then that was really helpful just to get to know people. I met a ton of people through that whole process of joining both. And I really found my community that way. And then after FPF, I was really interested in joining some more clubs. So I also joined Cal ACLU. And that's all just been a really great experience. And you can definitely have the balance. I was a little nervous about it, but you can definitely have that balance.
How about you, Zan?
I feel like for me, since I'm an international student from China, so like getting into college was a big transition for me at the very beginning. So I was focusing on my classes at the very beginning and try to just get used to the life here and try to find my community. I was also looking at some of the clubs at Berkeley, but I also felt like sometimes maybe talk to more people before you join the club. Because different clubs can have really different cultures, and you want to make sure like you are joining a group that you really enjoy. So like I feel like taking the first semester to talk to people and get to know more about what's going on campus is helpful. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, and that's first one question that came to mind for me personally. Was there anything you learned, whether that's from FPF or just in your first semester in general, that helped you feel more equipped to navigate campus in the following semesters?
If no one else wants to go, I can start us off with this one. I would say just one thing that really helped from having a semester in FPF is just that the huge campus and having so many people in my classes, and just in general, I went to a really small high school, and so that was very overwhelming to me. I knew I was capable of it, but just felt very overwhelming. And so I think that having the first semester have just a smaller community, just you get really used to like just having those small conversations with people next to you, like, oh, hey, like, what's your name? Like, what dorm are you in? That type of thing. And so I think that just that experience of getting to see so many people and having a little bit more familiarity in FPF was really helpful when it came to going to the larger campus, and just having a semester here before being in such huge classes. I knew people more, so like I had like in all of my classes and all my discussions, I know at least like one person, and in some of the bigger ones I know a lot. And so it's just like having that experience of being here, getting my footing was really helpful, and just kind of finding some people who I connected with was really, really helpful, having had the first semester in FPF.
Thank you, Sky. How about you, Quinn? Was there anything that you learned in FPF or in your first semester in general that helped you navigate campus moving forward?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was that in FPF, I used the bus a lot. And I became really familiar with, the free AC transit bus system we have in Berkeley. And I felt like I knew the system a lot better than my friends who didn't go to FPF because they weren't taking the bus and they hadn't really done it before. So when we would go, I don't know, out to eat or something else later on, I was the one who kind of knew how the transit worked because I had used it to get to FPF before.
Yeah, bus systems. What about the size of campus? So how did you all navigate like moving around? Because Berkeley in of itself is a pretty big campus to commute across. So you use the bus, Quinn. What about everyone else? How did you all get down to the Golden Bear Center for your FPF classes?
Bus and walking. I did bus and walking.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, looking back, I really wish I still went to the Golden Bear Center, because sometimes I have to walk up to Soda, and that's like one of those walks. And then not only that, but also like if you go to like school like up in like the northeast side, or like the northwest side, yeah, you really start missing the buses and stuff like that. Yeah, but I liked the fact that I could bus there and like walk there, and it was like pretty easy, and everything else was just like, oh, you walk into one class and then you just see your next class like right next to you and all that.
Yeah, what Hazel said, it's a good time to mention too that most FPF courses take place in the Golden Bear Center in downtown Berkeley, which is a Berkeley campus building that has other UC Berkeley offices in it, like study abroad and summer sessions. But there are some courses offered in the fall that will be offered online or in other campus buildings, such as Wheeler or Worcester Hall too. Speaking of campus and like finding your way around, what was the housing situation for you all? Like I said, it looks like you're in a campus dorm right now. So like, would you have any recommendations for housing in FPF?
For sure. So I am currently in Unit 2 in a triple room. So Unit 2 is one of the furthest ones from FPF, but I had a scooter, so gratefully I was able to commute with a scooter, and that was easy for me. Um, so if you don't have a scooter and if you would want to walk, I would say you can go with Blackwell or Unit 3, which are comparatively closer to FPF. But with all the dorms, there is the 51B bus, which can take you anywhere from the dorms to the FPF building, and then the 79 bus from Clarker campus. So definitely go with the newer dorms. So that would be Blackwell. That would be my suggestion to you guys.
Good advice with the housing application due on May 2nd. Very cool. One question that we often get asked by prospective students is, does FPF make you feel isolated given that many of your classes are in a separate building? So how do you all feel about that? Were there ways that, or moments when you felt a little isolated, and how did you manage those feelings if they came up for you?
For me personally, I felt kind of the opposite of that, just because it was like a small community FPF where there was a lot of like people I knew. So I think I felt less isolated my first semester than I would have. But I did think about that, so that's why I took like a 1-unit Berkeley Connect course on main campus, just so that I would have a little more experience on main campus my first semester. If I felt like I would be a little unfamiliar with it moving forward.
I'd like to add on too. It seems like, okay, so honestly, I wasn't that really isolated from like people that were on campus. I still had like friends that were like on campus, and then I also had my roommates too, who also introduced me to like some of my friends that were on campus, but they were also my friends, and I still have those connections. So I would have to say, like, when like pretty much the opposite, because I have the friends that I have that are currently on campus, and then I also had like the friends that were at the FPF, and like I basically had like 2 giant communities, so like that was pretty fun.
And were your roommates in FPF, Hazel, or no?
No, they weren't in FPF, but you know, that was like the reason why like I had like some like some of the friends on campus, like they introduced me to them and all that. But you know, same statement goes anyways, like you're never like truly isolated from like the UC Berkeley experience just because you're going into FPF. It's just that like you're in a different building, and that's like, yeah, sure, you're not like always on campus, but like honestly, I was still able to like walk around, get like have some friends, like hang out, you know, all that fun jazz.
Yeah, so you can totally go about and do all the whatever you envision being the typical college student experience, like whether that's taking a nap on Memorial Glade or going to a protest, you can still go out and do all those things at Berkeley in addition to participating in FPF. So it's a very good reminder. Thank you, Hazel. This is a question that came up open to everyone. So what did you have any favorite moments while you were in FPF, whether that might have been a moment in the classroom with a friend or some other capacity? We'll start with you, Sky.
Yeah, so I would say my favorite moment in FPF, that's a hard one. Honestly, I just really liked there's not necessarily like a specific moment I can pinpoint, but I just had a really good time. I tried to schedule my classes back to back just because I am living in Clark Kerr, which is one of the furthest dorms from FPF building. And I walked, it's doable. But so I tried to schedule my classes back to back. It didn't work out that way just because I was prioritizing what classes I like really wanted versus timing. So I like spent a good amount of time just like hanging out in the Golden Bear Center and like walking back and forth with some friends of mine. And I would just say like the downtime of being with other FPF students, I really enjoyed. I made some friends who I'm like really close with now from FPF, and that was just like through all the small moments of like, oh, like let's walk to class together, or are you doing anything before your class? Like I had this break between just that kind of like very casual, just kind of hanging out with people, that I actually found like some of the most impactful moments for me.
That's awesome. Thank you. Hazel, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say one of my favorite moments is probably like when we made like presentations and stuff like that in groups together, and like it was like basically, and it was in like one of my favorite classes too. It was in like the ancient Greek and Roman studies class. Basically, we like made like presentations about like our favorite myths, and also like the either that or like the gods and stuff like that, in like, you know, like classical Greek like religion and culture. Mine was about Medusa and Perseus, and it was like pretty fun because I got to like do like my little spiel, and also that's like one of the stories that like I like personally, because like there's like a lot of like different ways to like tell it, and like a lot of controversies, and like a lot of controversies with like Athena as a goddess and a standing figure in that. And also like I like no like just like figuring out like, you know, the gods, and like there's certain like perspectives, their spheres of influence, and like their controversies and all that. That was like kind of fun for me, so like I got to like do all that.
Yeah, it sounds super fascinating. Thank you. How about you, Osed? What did you have a favorite moment from your time in FPF?
Yeah, for sure. I think my favorite time was when in my geography class I was able to present about my own country, since I'm an international student. So I had the opportunity to present about Pakistan. And I think that was one of my favorite moment at FPF.
That's so cool. And Hazel and Osed's comments prompted me to remind you all that in FPF, we hire instructors that really want to work with first-year students, and many of them spend a lot of their backgrounds specifically wanting to teach students who are new to college too. So you have that additional benefit with our instructors. Quinn and Zon, do you have anything else to add about favorite moments in the program?
I think for me, maybe two. The first one is just like easy access to advising, because after I moved to main campus, I just realized like how valuable it is. Because like here, sometimes if I need to go to an office hour or like book an advising, it's like super hard. And especially for some of the technical classes, office hours, I waited like for 30 minutes and nobody talks to me. But like in FPF, like talking to academic advisor is just like so easy. I sometimes just stop by to chat a little bit about what's going on my end. I feel like that really helped for my transition into college. And the other moment is just like when I realized like I could kind of enjoy both the resources at FPF and main campus, because like the study space at Golden Bear Center is really great versus like Moffett. Normally I have to come early in the morning to get a spot. And some of the other things, it's just like you need to be really active to get those resources. But FPF, it's like as long as you want, there's something over there.
Yeah, that's a good point about the study spaces. I forgot about that. I really miss those because they're always open seats and they're like very comfortable, and it's a nice environment right next to your classes, and I definitely don't have that on main campus. I think a good memory for me was just that like, you know, I took my first class and my second class was right after it, and or not right after, later the day, and there was like all these people that I had talked to my first class in that class as well. So it was, I don't know, it was very helpful to just like, oh, like now I already know some people here, and like I'll sit with these people, and then I befriended them. So that helped a lot in terms of building relationships.
Yeah, thank you all for sharing those things. And so your comments, they remind me of another question we often get is, did you encounter any difficulties adjusting going from the spring semester after you were no longer in FPF? So was there any challenges you encountered once you finished your FPF semester?
Yeah, I mean, I think I had like slightly less familiarity with some of like the main campus layout, just because I spent a little bit less time there. But I think it wasn't like that big a difference, because like I did take a main campus course and I joined a club or two. And like if anyone was like, I didn't really go to libraries very much my first semester, but if you went to libraries, I think it would not be a hard transition, just because you would still be spending a good amount of time on main campus.
Yeah, I would like to add on. Same here. Basically, same situation. It was a little bit difficult that like I like didn't know at the beginning like what was basically the difference between Dwinell and Wheeler, and I was like, those two are actually switched, yeah. But it's pretty easy to like pick that back up, and it's honestly like that was pretty much the only difficulty, and I would have to say, I mean, I got kind of a trade-off because while I didn't like know main campus pretty well, now I know downtown pretty well. And now I can like point out places like, oh my God, that's where like Trader Joe's is, that's where that is, that there, and all that, yeah.
Yeah, I want to add on to that because there was like a little problem this year where everyone's Clipper cards, the Clipper cards what you use for the bus was like not working, and the office that you had to fix it at was actually right next to the FPF building, and all of my friends was like, where do we go fix this? I have no idea. And I was like, I'll take you there right now. The parking transportation office, it's right next to the FPF. And so I got it fixed very easily just because I do places downtown.
Quinn saves the day. That's a funny story. Yeah, anyone else? Did you have any like difficulties adjusting to campus after FPF?
Honestly, I didn't really find it super difficult to adjust to campus after FPF. Like when I was mentioning, like I went to some libraries and stuff during my FPF semester, just in between my classes, instead of walking all the way back up to Clark. And I also like went a lot during Dead Week last semester. So I was pretty familiar with just kind of overall general areas of campus. I would say I was a little nervous about like finding the specific buildings where I had my classes this semester. And the first few weeks I did like use Google Maps just to figure out which specific buildings I was going to. But all the buildings are on Google Maps. So that is one thing if you're nervous about that.
No shame in using Google Maps.
Yeah, just to add, I think I took a decal on campus last semester in my FPF semester. So that way I was very familiar with the buildings around that class, and I knew where everything was, but I also had to use Google Maps. The campus is huge. And once you get to know what building your class is, I think then you get familiar with it.
Oh, also to add on, like like you're in this like specific, like when you're taking specific classes, you kind of notice this pattern, like there's general assignment class like places here, and then all of physics, astrophysics, math is like close to there, it's like closely there, and then like chemistry right over there, yeah. Like honestly, like it's kind of like grouped by like whatever you're doing, and like it's like totally like you'll get used to it, and like you'll get used to like the next classes that you'll take over and over again.
Well, thank you all for those comments about location. We've had 2 recent questions about getting into FPF, like how hard is it and is there a particular size? So Brandon, would you be able to answer that question out loud?
Yeah, so just in general, like FPF is first come, first serve. So if you are interested in FPF, all you have to do is either if you're an opt-in student, accept your offer of admissions, and then complete the first year pathway selection form and select FPF. And if you're a direct admit, accept your offer of admissions by May 1st. Now, again, we are first come, first serve. So once our seats are filled, unfortunately, that means if you were interested in FPF, then you wouldn't be able to get in. But outside of that, if we still have space, then there's not necessarily like a application. It's really if you're interested, and if there's space, then you can definitely join.
Very cool, thank you. Yes, so as we move into the last 5 minutes of our ambassador webinar today, please feel free to keep asking any questions, but since we're nearing the end, I would love to hear from each ambassador if they have any, what's one or two pieces of advice that you would give to incoming first year Cal students, and that could be pertaining to anything at Berkeley, so.
I think the biggest piece of advice that I've thought of is that when you're a freshman and sophomore, like you can take upper division classes. Like it's fine. They're probably more interesting than lower division classes because they're a little more I guess people who like are into the subject. So even if you're like I mean I take a lot of classes that I'm not studying, but the people there are more knowledgeable and more into the class. So I think you get more out of it. And if you do decide to like minor or major in something, you can actually use the upper division class for the requirement, whereas lower division class you wouldn't really be able to. And as well, I guess in my experience at least, I haven't found upper divisions to give you more work than lower divisions. But I do think like it all like I always got the feeling that all the freshmen and sophomores kind of were scared of upper divisions and like thought that they weren't supposed to take them. But I would suggest that it's all right and it could be a good experience.
Awesome, thank you.
I would say my biggest piece of advice, and this is like regardless of whether or not you end up coming to Berkeley, regardless of whether or not you end up doing FPF, wherever you go, whatever you end up doing, just really put yourself out there. Whether that's like joining a club or just talking to people in your class, or maybe like you're about to go to dinner, text someone on your floor, someone in your building, like, hey, like, you want to come with me? Dining hall, that type of thing, can really go a long way. You never know who's going to end up being like someone who you're really close with. You never know who's going to end up just like being part of your really close circle. And so just doing all those like small things, like if you don't reach out, like it can feel like a little bit more lonely. And so it just, nobody is going to judge you if you reach out. Like maybe they'll be busy, but everyone's trying to meet new people. Nobody will have any judgments or anything. Just reach out. And that's how you find your community, regardless of where you are. It takes a little bit of energy at first, but then they'll start reaching out to you too. And like everyone's reaching out to everybody. So that's how you develop your community. So I would say put yourself out there and try small things like that.
Thank you, Sky.
I guess that like one piece of advice that I have is like imposter syndrome is like crazy, but I hope that like it like eases you that like, you know, like a good majority of students like feel that way. I think there's articles that I've read like, and like the statistics are like around like 70-80%. So you're like not alone in that situation. But just to let you know, like, you know, they chose like UC Berkeley like chose you for a reason. They read your essays. They like you're like meant to like be here. And like, you know, like if you choose another like university, that's fine as well. But you know, like just know that like UC Berkeley chose you because you're brilliant. Like don't ever let like any experiences that you have coming into like UC Berkeley, or like any experiences that like are outside of that, like make you think that otherwise.
Tell them, Hazel. There you go. Other thoughts and advice for your first year at Cal?
I think adding on that, Berkeley is definitely like a crazy place. There are a lot of brilliant people here doing crazy things. I knew someone who can be the club leader, they can do intern, they can do research, they can maintain a 4.0 GPA all at the same time, but just don't like anybody else. Like their progress kind of stops you from moving on. Just keep your own way of, you know, making progress. And also like talking to people, make sure like you're always staying confident and staying comfortable all the time and taking good care of yourself. I think that's like most important over college.
Awesome, Zahn. How about you, Osed?
Yeah, one advice I would definitely give everybody is to take a decal in your first semester. You get to meet a lot of new people. And then one more advice I would give everybody is to definitely try out clubs on campus, whether they be business societies, consulting clubs, computer science clubs, web design clubs. There's a lot of clubs on campus to explore those options.
Awesome. Thank you, Ambassador. So the overall vibe I'm getting is you belong here, your progress is your own, and get involved during your time at Berkeley. So all wonderful advice. Thank you all so much for sharing your insight and experiences and other suggestions during our FPF online info session with student panel. We appreciate each and every one of you ambassadors for coming here and sharing your insight. And thank you to everyone who's tuning in. This concludes our FPF online info session, and the recording for this webinar will be available on our YouTube page. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hi, everybody.